Hello everybody, it is Nicole from iiKiui, where I want to help you improve your art. Today I'm going to teach you how to blend with water brush pens. These are some newer tools that I discovered once I started my YouTube channel, and I didn't really know about them before. They are supposed to be more convenient and portable for when you want to add watercolor to a piece, or you want to add something on the go. Today I'm going to be using the GenCraft water brush pens that I reviewed in my last video. But these tips apply with any brand of water brush pens, so just use whatever you have. If you want to follow along, the first thing you will need to do is gather supplies. You will need watercolor paper, tape, scissors, 2 jars to hold water, one for cleaning and one for painting, a towel or paper towel to dry off your brush, a large round tip brush, and water brush pens. Today I'm using the Canson watercolor paper. Any watercolor paper will work, I just use this brand because it's cheap. I start off by cutting the paper to size. I buy the 9x12 inch paper pad size, but when doing swatches, I like to cut them in half to 9x6 inches. However, in order to evenly space the sections we will be painting, I cut it down to 8x6. Next, I'm going to measure and divide the paper into even sections. For today, I'm going to divide it into 5 sections. However, if you're using these techniques for a drawing you already have, you can skip this step. From the edge, I measured a 1/2 inch and made a mark. From there, I marked an inch in, then a 1/2 inch, and repeated until you have 5 1-inch sections with a 1/2 inch border on all sides. After we have all the sections marked off, I tape off the edges with some artist tape so the watercolor doesn't bleed off the border. If you're applying watercolor on an irregular shape, you can use masking fluid instead, or just paint very carefully. After taping off the front, I then tape the back side of the paper with some masking tape to stick it to my desk. The reason I do this is to prevent warping of the paper. Since we're just doing swatches, I only taped off the back side, but if you're doing a more complex piece with lots of layering, I suggest taping the entire piece onto the desk from the front. Now we can dive into the watercolor. I'll be going over all the steps in this first swatch, then go more in depth with the other swatches. For the first one, we will be focusing on blending one color into the white of the paper. I will be using 4 different shades of pink, going from a darker magenta to a light pink, but you can also do this with just one color and blend it out. For water brush pens, I recommend using the wet on dry technique. First, you want to apply a generous amount of color at the very top, or wherever it's going to be most saturated. Then scribble in more paint, lessening it as you go down. Apply all the colors to the page before moving on to the next step. When blending multiple colors or shades together, I slightly overlap them. This causes them to blend a little already since the watercolor in the brush is already wet. Doing this just helps in the overall blending process and avoids creating light areas between 2 colors. Next, you want to take your regular brush, dip it in the water, dab off the excess on your towel, then apply it to the paper. Starting from the top, pull your brush down to spread the color into the next. To blend the colors more seamlessly, I use a squiggle motion. Think of it as stitching 2 colors together. As your brush dries, or you move into the next color, add more water. Clean your brush in the first jar, then dip your brush in the jar of clean water and dab it on your towel to get rid of any excess water. You want it to be damp, not soaking wet. If you add too much water, it will significantly lighten the color already applied. At this point, it is important to remember that at the end of this section, we want the paint to stay white. When you get near the end, clean off your brush to get rid of any remaining paint and dampen your brush again. Start from the bottom and use the same motion, this time going upwards. This blends the water and paint together, but also leaves the bottom of the page white. Remember, in watercolor, the whitest white will be the paper. You kind of have to work backwards in order to keep certain parts white, but I can go over that in another video. If you want a smoother blend, I suggest lots of layering. I would wait until the paper dries until adding the next layer, then repeat the process. The next one we'll go over is a monochromatic color scheme using a dark red to a lighter red. In this section, I used 5 different colored pens. First, add the darkest shade at the top and the lightest shade at the bottom. Because we are not blending to white, I want to make sure my lightest color is on the page so I can judge how much space I want between the colors. For practice purposes, I'm spacing them out fairly evenly. Then, apply the other colors that fall in between using the same technique as before. Overlapping them helps with the blending process but is not necessary. Apply water with your brush to the darker side and move downwards. Then, clean your brush and apply water to the lighter side, moving upwards. The main goal is to make the two colors blend, so we always head towards the middle. If the colors look like they're more separated than blended, try using a horizontal stroke, moving in either direction. The continuous movement from top to bottom, or vice versa, can really help to seamlessly blend colors together. At first, it may not look blended, but I assure you, if you keep layering and repeating the same process once the previous layer dries, then it will look more blended. I also want to note that if you are only going halfway up when applying water, it will dry with a water edge mark. When applying water to blend the colors, try to cover the entire area. In these last 3 sections, I'll be blending 2 or more colors together. The first one will be blending 2 colors, orange to yellow. The next will be blending 3, green, teal, and blue. And the last one will blend 4 colors, purple, pink, yellow, and orange. The process is very similar to the monochromatic one. Make sure you pick out all your colors beforehand so you know exactly what you're using and in what order. Depending on your image, you may want to add the colors more spread out or close together, but again, I'm going to make them relatively even to each other for teaching purposes. Using the same steps as before, apply your colors onto the paper in the order that you want. Then, add water with a clean brush, dampened with water to smooth out the paint. You want to go in the direction of the middle for each end so you can have a saturated end color and blended bit in the middle. When you get to the point where they overlap, you want to repeatedly clean your brush and wipe off any excess water. Then go over the sections again, moving towards the middle. This helps to blend the colors together evenly without any excess paint interfering. For example, in the last section, if I did not clean my brush from the pink when blending the yellow to the orange, it would have made the colors muddy and less saturated. In order to make the ends more saturated, you want to repeat the process several times after the previous layers have dried. This just helps to build up the color into something brighter. The process is the same when blending more colors. Just add them in their respective places and use the same steps to blend them together. I have many tutorials planned for the future, so I hope you'll stay tuned for those. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're notified of when a new video comes out. I hope you guys found these tips useful or helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Keep drawing, keep creating, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!